Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ji ki jai. So we'll be reading verse number 3. Tan nirjita prana manovacho drisho jita snan shanta saman vigrahan pare male brahmani yojita atman surasuro gyo dradrishe sam narada. Translation. After practicing the yogasana for mystic power, the prachetas managed to control their life air, mind, words, and external vision. Thus, by the pranayam process, they were completely relieved of the material attachment. By remaining perpendicular, they could concentrate their minds on the uppermost Brahman. While they were practicing this pranayam, the great sage Narada, who is worshipped both by demons and by demigods, came to see them. Purport. In this verse, the word parayamle is significant. The realization of Brahman is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. The absolute truth is realized in 3 phases. The impersonal effulgence, Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagwan. In his prayers, Lord Shiva concentrated upon the personal feature of Parabrahman, described in personal terms as Snigdha, Pravardhana Shyamam. Bhagavatam 4.24.45. Following the instructions of Lord Shiva, the Prachetas also concentrated their minds on Shyam Sundar, form of the Supreme Brahman. Although the impersonal Brahman, Paramatma Brahman, and Brahman as a supreme person are all on the same transcendental platform, the personal feature of the Supreme Brahman is the ultimate goal and the last word in transcendence. The great sage Narad travels everywhere. He goes to the demons and the demigods and is equally respected. He's consequently described herein as Surasuredya, worshipped both by demons and by demigods. For Narad Muni, the door of every house is open. Although there is perpetual animosity between the demons and the demigods, Narad Muni is welcomed by everywhere. Narada is considered one of the demigods, of course, and the word Devarishi means the saintly person amongst the demigods. But not even the demons envy Narad Muni. Therefore, he is equally worshipped both by demons and by demigods. A perfect Vaishnava position should be like Narad Muni's, completely independent and unbiased. So the little bit of understanding that I got out of this verse is a couple important points that are repeating. One is where Prabhupada Ji is explaining what we have read in Bhagavad Gita as Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwan Eti Shabdayat, is the absolute realization happens in 3 phases. Brahman, then the localized Paramatma feature that Krishna is in every heart. And the third one is Supreme Bhagwan, Supreme Brahman himself. Here what really stood out to me is where they are talking about that Prachetas followed what Shivji has taught them. So following the instructions of Lord Shiva, Pracheta concentrated their mind. Of course, Prachetas lived thousands of years, so they leveraged the method of pranayam. We are born, it's like a material world is like a blessing in disguise. We are in Kali Yuga, so we have the blessings of acharyas. So for example, Shivji here has blessed Prachetas, and following in Shivji's steps or following the teachings of Shivji, they ended up realizing God. So similarly, although We are in Kali Yuga. We have the blessing of our spiritual master, supreme spiritual master, Prabhupada ji, and following his footsteps, we will be able to realize Supreme Brahman, which is Bhagwan. And the other thing that stood out was about Narada. They're saying he goes everywhere, and he's equally respected by a demon and the demigods. And then Prabhupada ji is narrating at the end very beautifully, saying, a Vaishnava, doesn't matter how people react. Doesn't matter if people are demons, people are demigods. They are welcoming or they are not. It does not matter for a pure Vaishnava, because pure Vaishnava is seeing everyone as part and parcel of Krishna, and is seeing that out of compassion can see how everyone is struggling, and they are giving Krishna consciousness to everyone. So that's why Naraji is welcomed everywhere. It's like one of the prayers that Prachetas that Shivji was teaching Prachetas. He said, think about sun god. Sun god is a great Vaishnava, that he sends his sunlight everywhere. Doesn't matter the place is a beautiful heaven or the place is a hell. Sunlight will go everywhere and will sterilize everything. So similar way, doesn't matter whether somebody is welcomed or not, a pure devotee will go and spread Krishna consciousness everywhere. Prabhupada ji is a perfect example. When he went to Western world, he wasn't welcomed. He went to, when we read Leela Amrit, he went to somebody's house who actually picked them from the airport. But he was like a guest, unwanted guest, he said in his Leela Amrit. Like we can imagine, that's a spiritual master. He's a Goswami, and he's being treated as an unwanted guest. Yet he ended up spreading Krishna consciousness everywhere. Regardless of how he was treated, regardless of how many difficulties he had, he showed how a perfect Vaishnava should be. And that's something that we should take in our practical life too. We can't be perfect as them, but at least we can try to spread Krishna consciousness to the best of our abilities. That's all I got out of the Prabhuji and Mataji's. Please go ahead and comment. Would anyone like to add something?
I think you covered it quite well, Mataji. You can go on to the next verse.
Okay, ji. ठीक है जी.
Correct.
Hare Krishna ji. Would anyone like to read?
I read, Mataji.
Okay ji.
4.31.4 Tam agatam taptaya pranipatya vinandaya cha
Pranipatya bhinandaya cha
pujayatva yatha desam
pujayatva yatha desham
sukhasinam tabhruvam.
sukhasinam tha bhruvan.
As soon as the Prachetas saw that the great sage Narada had appeared, they immediately got up, even from their asanas. As required, they immediately offered obeisances and worshipped him. When they saw that Narada Muni was properly seated, they began to ask him questions. Purport. It is significant that all the Prachetas were engaged in practicing yoga to concentrate their minds on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, it's a very, very short verse in purport, but what is interesting is that we've seen throughout Bhagavatam that the great souls like Pandavas, Vidura, so they all, even Dhritarashtra towards the end, they went away to the forest and they started meditating on the Lord before they gave up their body. So the Prachetas, after having fulfilled their original instructions from Narada and then their instructions from Lord Shiva after having met the Lord, now their material life being over, they were like meditating on the Lord. And now when Narada came to, which I'm sure we will read in the following verses, but again they got up because he is the original person who gave them instructions. So they like got up to receive him properly and then hear inquiringly from him, which is what we can gather from what they're getting ready to do. They did not ignore him or anything. He immediately got up, offered the obeisances, and waited to hear inquiringly what Narada had to give them as instructions. Hare Krishna. Would anybody like to add to that?
Hare Krishna. I feel that Rachetas now are not, they are following mixed devotion. Means they are also following Ashtanga Yoga, and they have got rid of material attachment. So this was probably the influence of the Grahastha life that they have had for so many years. Because initially they were given, they were instructed by Lord Shiva and all, and then they went through this. So I think Narad Muni is coming and worshipping them should have some more deeper purpose to instruct them in pure devotion, I suppose.
Sure, Mataji.
I'm just speculating that, but that is what I feel. What the way things are going. So
yeah, I think
Narad
so.
Muni's appearance, I think we'll come to know in the next verses.
But if you see the first verse, it says, Prachetas lived at home for 1,000 years and developed perfect knowledge and spiritual consciousness. So they are 1,000 years where they lived in material life. They had perfected their knowledge in spiritual consciousness. Then they remembered the blessings of Supreme Personality of Godhead and left home. So then there again they remember the instructions of the Lord. So I guess it could also be said that this being a previous age where people lived for many years, their spiritual practices were far more advanced, and unlike today when even if you have to sit down for half an hour, then our legs start hurting. So it's they're far more advanced and are able to do that kind of a spiritual practice where they're able to concentrate their mind on the Lord while maintaining yogic process.
Yeah, so that still comes under mixed devotion. So, I mean, devotion which is mixed with yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. So, and now, and that definitely has helped them to get rid of their material attachment. That is what is mentioned in the previous purport, that they were completely relieved of material attachment and they could concentrate their minds on the uppermost Brahman. But so, at least
I agree, but again, Prabhupada says in today's Kali Yuga that it's not possible for us to do all of this. And which is why he says that you surrender totally to the Lord by chanting the names of the Lord. I don't know if in the earlier ages, the fact that they were able to concentrate their mind upon the Lord, is that considered full bhakti or no? They would have to.
No, this is not pure devotion, actually, if you see. So that is why I feel that Narad Muni is coming at this time in their life when they had perfected, they were completely rid of material attachment, has some more deeper meaning than his just coming like that. And
sure, Mataji. I think we will know in the next few verses.
Yeah, we should know.
Hare Krishna. Text 5, would somebody like to read it, please?
I'll read.
Sure.
So, text 5. Prachetasa uchu swagatam te surase adya dishtya no darshanam gata tava chankra manam brahman abhyaya yatharave. Translation. All the Prachetas began to address the great sage Narad. O great sage, O Brahmana, we hope you met with no disturbances while coming here. It is due to our great fortune that we are now able to see you. By the traveling of the sun, people are relieved from the fear of the darkness of night, a fear brought about by thieves and rogues. Similarly, your traveling is like the sun's, for you drive away all kinds of fear. Purport. Because of the night's darkness, everyone is afraid of rogues and thieves, especially in great cities. People are often afraid to go out on the streets, and we understand that even in a great city like New York, people do not like to go out at night. More or less, when it is night, everyone is afraid, either in the city or in the village. However, as soon as the sun rises, everyone is relieved. Similarly, this material world is dark by nature. Everyone is afraid of danger at every moment. But when one sees a devotee like Narad, all fear is relieved. Just as the sun disperses darkness, the appearance of a great sage like Narad disperses ignorance. When one meets Narad or his representative, a spiritual master, one is freed from all anxiety brought about by ignorance. Okay. So this, I think, more or less is pointing towards that only, that Narad has come like a sun to disperse whatever the remaining darkness was due to ignorance. That's why it's mentioned in so much of detail about here, that how the rising of the sun disperses all the darkness. Similarly, a devotee, by enlightening the others in the knowledge of pure bhakti, enlightens the souls, gives us the way to get out of this, out of the clutches of material nature. So similarly, the appearance of Narad, so that is why the Prachetas, knowing that Narad Muni is pure devotee, and so they felt very nice, very relieved looking at him, that he definitely will show them the right direction. If anybody else would like to add anything?
That makes sense, Mataji. I think so. I think it will be, yeah, the next few verses should be more clear.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Brahman. Sorry for the delay. Urgent. So we see, actually, there is this verse. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. So in the next canto, actually, the fifth canto, when we're going to start, we're going to see the same thing, the darkness of this material world. Timirandhasya. So what is this darkness? I am this body. So Krishna is saying, for example, Neha Vikramo Nashosti Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpam apyasya dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. So these terms like Timirandhasya or Bhayat, so darkness, fear, these terms are being used together. Because in this material world, everyone is living in darkness, not knowing who they are. Like for example, if you're driving a car and your windshield is covered, the car is going somewhere, but you have no idea where. You could be traveling straight down the road, or you could hit the wall, or you could be falling into a ditch. So the living entities, without the knowledge of true self, they are living in complete darkness. They are without any heed. They are just running towards their own destruction. Without knowing what is their origin, what is their destination, they have no idea. What was their past, what is their future? They're just heading blindly in some direction without knowing. So this is a condition of great fear. So for example, you see, most of the people who have become devotees, at some point or the other in their lives, they have also thought, what is the purpose of life? Like, I'm working so hard, but what is the objective? What happens after death? So these kind of inquiries, they are welcomed in bhakti. So the Guru, he enlightens us. Actually, you see, Krishna is saying, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye. Not everyone is interested in knowing. Not everyone is interested in knowing who they are and why they are. Very few. So the great sages like Narad, they travel. They practically travel door to door to awaken the people. So when a learned man, when he sees the approach of a spiritual master, he becomes engladdened. So in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also mentioned that when sadhus appear, the pious grahasthas become very pleased. Just like the peacocks, when they see the dark clouds appearing in the skies of Vrindavan in the month of autumn, they start dancing, because the heat of the summer is scorching. When the autumn arrives and the rain clouds appear in autumn, it is a very pleasing sight for the peacocks. So they start dancing. This is exactly like the grahasthas who have been scorched by the heat of grahasthashram. They become pleased upon seeing the arrival of a sadhu, because they see sadhu as their path of liberation. So the sadhus, they are traveling from door to door. They're meeting grahasthas to deliver them from the darkness of this ignorance. Therefore, when the sadhu appears, a pious personality immediately becomes happy to see him. So Prachetas, they had performed the pranayama exercises, they had purified themselves from the misconception of materialistic life. But here is also another lesson here. Thus, by pranayama process, they were completely relieved of material attachment. By remaining perpendicular, they could concentrate their minds on the uppermost Brahman. While they were practicing this pranayama, the great sage Narad, who is worshipped both by the demons and by demigods, came to see them. So you see, this practice of pranayama was their own endeavor. But now Narad Muni has arrived to give them further instructions. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. So now Narad Muni has arrived. They are already Brahma Bhut. Now they will love mad bhaktim labate param. Now they will benefit from pure devotion to the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna. Yes. So, any questions or comments, anyone?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
One comment. Somehow, I don't know, is this right to relate? But I'm relating this with the Gopis or even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It says, in the translation, it says, "O great sage, O Brahmana, we hope you met with no disturbances while you coming here." So they are genuinely caring about Naradji who came here. Right? They just didn't say, "Oh, Naradji is here, now he'll help." They are genuinely caring or showing their love and respect by asking them, I hope there was no disturbances that you faced while coming here. That's like gopis. Gopis were always thinking about Krishna that when he's going barefooted, I hope there is no thorn or anything that gets to his feet. Or even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he's going with his associates, when he was going to in the Madhya Leela, it says when he's going to where is he going? Oh, when he was going towards Vrindavan, but Nityanand Prabhu, with illusion, he brings him to Advaitacharya Prabhu's house. But why would he do that? Because he genuinely cares for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and so is Advaitacharya. Because when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu take a bath in thinking it's river Yamuna and Ganges, then he didn't have an extra pair of clothes. So Advaitacharya bring extra pair of clothes with him. So all these are showing genuine care towards Paramatma, towards Bhagwan and love. We don't have direct association with Krishna, but we have his associates in the form of devotees and spiritual masters. So if we can somehow develop our care and love towards them, it will be like us developing care towards Krishna. And the result will be like what Prachetas are seeing, that Narad Muni is going to deliver them, that those devotees and spiritual master will help us deliver too. Is that the right way to relate, or that just exaggeration?
You see, of course, at our stage, we are quite contaminated by material nature. But still, ye yathabam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham. So, see, in the highest conception of life, Krishna is seen as another living entity. Krishna is not perceived as God in the highest conception of life. The gopis do not think of Krishna as God. Actually, the gopis cannot think of Krishna as God, because if they start thinking of Krishna as God, then the Madhurya Ras will be dissipated. Then they'll devolve into Shantaras. So yes, so there must be a kind of a private attachment to Krishna also. So Guru also, like for example, when Prabhupada in 1977, Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan and he was quite weak. He couldn't walk. So at that time, Brahmanand Prabhu writes. So Prabhupada had to go somewhere and Brahmanand Prabhu had to lift him up. And when he lifted Prabhupada, he realized how heavy Prabhupada was. So he thought, see, this is Guru, heavy. So Prabhupada was practically like, he was skin and bones at that time. He had stopped eating. But still Prabhupada felt so heavy. So Brahmanand Prabhu was saying, see, this is Guru, this is transcendental. This is something we cannot understand. This is not something that medical science can explain. Prabhupada had not been eating, not been drinking, and yet he was so heavy. Brahmanand Prabhu, if you would have seen Brahmanand Prabhu, you would understand what I'm saying. Brahmanand Prabhu was 6 feet 2 inches tall approximately. And he was heavy. I mean, I saw him in 2001 and he must have been at least 110 kilos. He was a big man, Brahmanand Prabhu, really big. And he had like huge hands when we saw him. And still he thought that Prabhupada was too heavy to lift. So you see, so that's reciprocation. So that element, of course, we are not talking about that thing right now because at this stage of bhakti, it might just devolve into some sort of sahajaism. But unless one feels love and affection for Lord and his followers, that is beyond respect. That is greater than respect. Actually, people don't feel anything. That's the reason why no one makes progress in bhakti, because they don't feel anything. Okay, there's Prabhupada, I have to respect him. But there is no affection. Unless that affection comes from the Guru, one will not progress in bhakti. So a Guru, for Krishna, for devotees, everywhere, this feeling must exist. This feeling of caring and affection. Because that's what we are practicing. So even in this material stage, if we develop those qualities, they are transcendental. But we should realize that we are not feeling affection for this body, we are feeling for the soul. We are feeling this affection for the soul that inhabits this body.
One question to this, Prabhuji. How do you know you're not feeling affection to the body but to the soul? So when we meet devotees, for example, Shiksha Guru, you feel natural affection to them because they are the one who brought you in Krishna consciousness, or they are holding your hand throughout. You do feel affection with them. So how do we know we are attached bodily or we are actually attached soully? Like, how would we know?
See, so regarding regarding those in the spiritual life, like Prabhupada says, spiritual master is a principle, not a person. We don't say, oh, this man is spiritual master. No, the principle, spiritual master is a principle. So it is manifesting through different personalities. So yes, in the beginning stages of bhakti, we do feel affection for the body only. I mean, we are not in a position to identify the soul. So, but that is all right. So we should not let it devolve into gross bodily affection only or gross bodily attachment. We should understand that our attachment is to the real principle. How does one feel affection for a Shiksha Guru? Because the Shiksha Guru is giving Shiksha. If he is not giving Shiksha, then where is Shiksha and where is Guru? Then that is just bodily. So naturally that affection. So for example, when I say, I love my mother, so that affection is for the principle of motherhood. There are so many old ladies in this world and I feel nothing for them. But I feel affection because I feel that this personality represents motherhood to me. So anyhow, our attachment is always to the principle. So especially on the spiritual path, we should understand this. We should see our emotions must be guided by intelligence. The mind, the intelligence must, rule over the mind. So even in our affection, we should understand that we are feeling this affection for the principle and not for the person himself. So with intelligence, we should discipline our emotions.
Mm-hmm. You mean we are attached to the Shiksha or
yes,
them leading us in Krishna consciousness?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually that Siddhanta is coming from Krishna, so you'll develop affection for Krishna also.
Mm.
But at this stages of bhakti, it's all right. But, don't become overly attached to the person. Remain attached to the Siddhanta, the principle. Because, you see, everyone is a conditioned soul. Like when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he got initiated by Bipin Bihari Goswami, he was overwhelmed. But later on, Bipin Bihari Goswami deviated from the principles. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur had to leave him. You can see Bhaktivinoda Thakur's compositions when he's describing the glory of Bipin Bihari Goswami. But a few years down the line, Bipin Bihari Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had to leave him because he fell into misconceptions. In our ISKCON also, we've had spiritual masters falling down, and then people left bhakti altogether. Oh no, what do I do now? My spiritual master is gone. No. Spiritual master may be gone, but spiritual life itself goes on. So
Thank you, Prabhuji. That example actually helped. Thank you so much.
Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes. So shall we continue? Text 6. Yad adishtam bhagavata
यदादिष्टं भगवता
Bhagavata
shivenadhokshajena yacha
शिवेनाधोक्षजेन च
Shivnadhokshajena cha
tadgraheshu prasaktanam
तद्ग्रहेषु प्रसक्तानां
Prasaktanam
prayasha kshapitam prabho.
Prayasha
प्रायशः
Kshapitam
शपितं
Prabhu.
प्रभो हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी दंडवत प्रणाम
Dandavat pranam. Please read.
O Master, may we inform you that because of our being overly attached to family affairs, we almost forgot the instructions we received from Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, purported by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Remaining in family life is a kind of concession for sense enjoyment. One should know that sense enjoyment is not required, but one has to accept sense enjoyment in as much as one has to life. As confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.10, Kamasya Nindriya Ritehi. One has to become a Goswami and control his senses. One should not simply use his senses for sense gratification. Rather, these senses should be employed just as much as required for maintaining body and soul together. Srila Rupa Goswami recommends anasaktasya visayan yatharham upayunjantah. One should not be attached to sense objects, but should accept sense enjoyment as much as required and no more. If one wishes to enjoy the senses more than required, he becomes attached to family life, which means bondage. All the prachitas admitted their fault in remaining in household life. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Dandavat pranam. So now we are talking about the principle of sannyas. So in this material world, you see, there are concessions. Prabhupada says that these are concessions. In one of the essays, Srila Prabhupada is writing that actually in this material world, there are concessions which are made, grahastha ashram, or some rules and regulations which are east, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But the sages advise us that we should not consider even these. For the mind is so restless that any moment it can fall down from the principles. The regulated sense enjoyment still is sense enjoyment. And that means there is every chance of becoming attached. Very simple example. There are highways. So if you live in India, you see these highways, don't drink and drive, watch your speed, drive below speed limit. All this is written. But accidents still happen. Sometimes the driver falls asleep. Sometimes the driver doesn't notice that the road is broken. Sometimes the driver loses concentration and hits another vehicle. Even in the best countries in the world, there are accidents always. I mean, to be honest with you, every time I have traveled in Finnish roads, in Finland, I have seen car accidents. And this is literally one of the safest countries in the world for driving. But still there are accidents. Every time I travel on a highway, practically every time I see one accident. Why? Because in spite of all regulations, there is still some chance that anyone can make a mistake. Like Prabhupada says, that even on the royal roads, there are accidents. So just like that, if you engage in even a little bit of sense gratification, there is every chance of fall down. That's why in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have said, Narthasya dharma ekantasya kamo labhaya hi sprita. So one who is engaged in ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Now this instruction is not meant for brahmacharis and sannyasis only. It's meant for everyone. Because this instruction is being given to Parikshit Maharaj. So one should not engage in sense gratification, understanding sense gratification to be the cause of all miseries. One should be very, very careful. So one should accept, if one is forced, then one should accept a little bit. Therefore, one should see Grihastha Ashram as a duty. One should not see this as a place of residence. No, this is not. You may think, oh, this is my house, this is my bungalow, my apartment. No, it is not yours. Maya has given it to you on rent for some time. And when your time is over, she will take it back. So don't become too attached. This will be taken away from you, surely. This will be surely taken away from you. That's the whole purpose of spiritual life. The whole spiritual education is to teach you to become detached from material nature. Unless you detach from material nature, how will you understand Krishna? Krishna is Parabrahman. When you have not even reached the level of Brahman, how will you understand Krishna? So Prachetas are now saying the same thing, that my dear Lord, we forgot the instructions we received from Shiva and Vishnu. So when Narad Muni see this is Krishna, Krishna will remind you again and again. So when the Prachetas were living with the Marisha, they were enjoying Grihastha life. They, of course, they were not fallen at all, but still out of humility they are saying that we have fallen. And therefore now they are praying Narad Muni has come again to enlighten them and take them back to Godhead. So you see, this is also an illustration of how much Lord loves us, how much Krishna loves us. Again and again, he will come and send his representatives to take us back. Tomare loite ami hoinu avatar, ami bina bandhu aara ke ache tomar. Mahaprabhu is singing. Jiva bhuliya eshe sansara bhitare, bhuliya rohile tumi avidyara bhare. You promise you will come and remember me. Actually, this is exactly the situation. Prachetas saw the Supreme Lord. But now again, they have to be reminded by Narad Muni. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhuji, regarding this sense enjoyment, and it is like, it is a gradual process, first of all. So like when a new person, he comes to association of devotees, so he gradually try to understand the bhakti process. So slowly he try to surrender to the devotees first. Whatever devotees are saying, he started following them, that thing and all these things. And gradually someone comes to a stage where he realizes that Rusikena Rusikesa Sevanam. So finally we have to, our all senses need to be enjoyed by Krishna, and the services to be rendered by the senses to the master of the senses. So here, Prabhuji, my point is that many instances we have seen where Krishna has, like Prabhupada mentioned in purport to Grihastha life, is an allowance. It is an allowance. It is not a recommendation. It is an allowance because most grossly people are fallen and they have to, they cannot control sense gratification. So by Grihastha life, it is a license given that so they can enjoy a regulated sense enjoyment life. And that thing is there in Bhagavatam also. There are many instances where great personalities who have done like Prachetas, and there are many other personalities is there in Bhagavatam. They have come to, they have done austerities, and they again comes to Grihastha. They have followed, they got some sense enjoyment with regulated sense enjoyment. And again, they have realized that they have wasted their lifetime. And in this way, they again went for perfection, and with completely, they want to have a very strict life after that.
Huh.
So like that, Prabhuji, many times we see in our ISKCON also, in in our society, various instructions are given by Srila Prabhupada in various instances to his disciples, to his devotee, and Prabhupada's disciples also. They give various instances, different quote of Srila Prabhupada. But ultimately, it also depends on the person to person, a person who is on what level, and this thing, to make the person gradual progress. So my question is, Prabhuji, all these things are not true. Like when we say somebody, you do this only, this much only, like you also say often time in your classes, Prabhuji, that you do this much only, and nothing more you have to do. So then later on your other classes, it goes more heavier and deeper, and sometimes it's going even more, and sometimes it become more little lighter. So how Prabhuji, like it is for a different type of consciousness of a person, or a mindset of a person, or somebody's sadhana level, and how it will be, Prabhuji, to be taken.
So, Prabhu, like, for example, if there's a child, in a hospital, if you go to a doctor's clinic, you see everyone is having fever and cold. Now, a child goes, the doctor will say, okay, you take this antibiotic, take half a tablet twice a day. And a big man goes, he'll say, okay, take this tablet thrice a day, full tablet. So depending on the disease, depending on the patient, the medicine changes. So spiritual instructions are also like this. So, if there's a lady, we can't say, leave everything, go to Vrindavan and now try to be sannyasi. No, that's not the instruction given in the scriptures for ladies. But if there's a man, we can say, we should seriously consider leaving home. So, they are all living entities, all are jivas, and all are the instructions of scriptures. But they are to be applied according to the time, place, and circumstance. So it is always like this. Everything begins with Adav Shraddha. We read that verse, Adav Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sango. So Adav Shraddha, first, it begins with faith. So faith is most important. So when faith comes, then Sadhu Sang will help. If there is no faith, Sadhu Sang will be of no use. So many people associated with Prabhupada also, but did nothing later on. So many disciples or so many spiritual masters have done nothing. Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples, Kunja Bihari Babu, he ran away with a woman immediately after the disappearance of the Thakur. After disappearance of Prabhupada, he just ran away. So what do we understand? So there is Sadhu Sang, definitely, but there should be Shraddha to begin with. So there are many facets of bhakti. Adav Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sango Atha Bhajana Kriya Tato Anartha Nivritti Hisya. So from Shraddha we reach to Sadhu Sang, and there must be Bhajan Kriya. That we neglect. We just say, oh, Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Kare, Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Yes, definitely. But after Sadhu Sangha, there is Bhajan Kriya. Are we doing that? If Bhajan Kriya is done properly, we will immediately have Anartha Nivritti. Tato Nishtha Ruchistata. Then this faith, Nishtha, then Ruchi, then this attachment will also come. So Ruchi, interest will also come. So faith and interest will also come. But first we have to do Bhajan Kriya. Without Bhajan Kriya, there will be no Anartha Nivritti. Without Anartha Nivritti, there will be no Nishtha. And definitely no Ruchi or Asakti. So you see, spiritual life is a discipline. It's an academic discipline. It's an academic physical discipline. If someone wants to compare, this bhakti with some material discipline, I would say it is like a military academy. We take the example of National Defense Academy. It's academically and physically rigorous, very rigorous. To get into the academy, you need to be academically good and you need to be physically and mentally fit. So if you want to get into, say, some academic institution, like IIMs, IITs, AIMS, or any other institute, you need to be mentally fit. That's all. intellectually fit. That's all. In IIT, they will not test your chest and your medical exams. I mean, they used to do it at one point, till 70s, I believe. But not now. You just have to be intellectually fit. But in NDA, you have to be fit all around. So Bhajan Kriya is like that. So like I was discussing with Mataji also, it's not just a question of academic learning of Bhakti Shastras. Okay, now I know all the verses of Gita. No, there must be some emotion involved. We are dealing with soul, we are dealing with spirit. The word spiritual itself should give you some hint that this is living. So it's not just a question of mere academic knowledge. There must be emotions. Nityan Prabhu is saying, Je jana gaurango bhaje shehaya amar pranade. Why is he saying that? Je jana gaurango bhaje. What is bhaje? Who worships Gauranga? How will one worship Gauranga? Not by learning about him, but by actually serving him. By lovingly serving him. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Lord is not saying bhajatam jnana purvakam. No, very important to note the verses. Bhajatam priti purvakam. One who does loving devotional service, not knowledgeable devotional service. Of course, to love someone, you have to know. When a boy is in love with a girl or a girl is in love with a boy, they stalk each other. Okay, I saw the Facebook, I saw LinkedIn, I saw what are they like. I know what she likes, what she doesn't like. So if we can do that, we can see that in material platform. So why don't we do that in the spiritual platform? Why don't we want to know more about the Acharya and Krishna? That will increase our Shraddha. So instructions are different because people have different capacities to take those instructions. There is no limit to how many instructions can be given. The gopis of Vrindavan, they feel that they are not adequate enough for pleasing Krishna. They get disappointed also. They lament. They feel that we are not good enough, therefore Krishna has left us. So that is the mood. And we are aspiring for that mood. We still don't have it. Deep within our hearts, we are convinced that we are very good devotees.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, also, it is sometimes to be understood that is it depending on Krishna that he understood because internally he is there within everyone's heart. So sometimes it appears that this person is more because we in our little mind we sometimes see that how this person is doing living, because not much austere. We sometimes see in bhakti one has to be austere. So when somebody is not much in austere, we say that that person is enjoying his life or in sense enjoyment. So is sometimes we saw in our Shastras also, like Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and there are many other instances where devotees, they have not been much austere, but they have got attained the love of Godhead or mercy of Lord or attained liberation. So is it, Prabhuji, on instances or by the only mercy or exceptional case, or how to be, Prabhuji, it is to be taken?
See, Prabhu, you remember the case of a brahmachari who was drinking milk?
Yes, Prabhuji, Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yeah, you know that.
Yeah.
And what was Srivas Thakur doing? He was
doing nothing. He was doing only bhajan.
He was not even working.
Not even working. No job.
Yeah, so you get the point, Prabhu. Krishna is not pleased by what we do. Krishna is pleased by what we have in our heart, by what we feel.
In our heart.
See, naturally, when we feel something, we will do something.
Yeah.
Why are we taking so much trouble to preach? Why are we taking so much trouble to get people into bhakti? Not because we like to do it. I mean, it's an austerity, it's painful. For our preaching, like we have been called Ritviks and God knows what else. But we are doing this because it's the instruction of Srila Prabhupada. That's it. Actually,
yes,
the time that we are spending in preaching, we could spend in actually advancing our own bhakti. Even from a spiritual perspective. But we have to do this because it's an instruction. So we have to follow it because this pleases Prabhupada. It was his wish, so we are pleasing him. That's it. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado. So we are pleasing the spiritual master. So we have to take austerity.
तो क्या वो खत्म हुआ कि नहीं?
Very good. खत्म हो रहा है प्रभु. So you see, so we are taking all these austerities simply for the sake of the instructions. Mahaprabhu says, Jare dekha tare kaha Krishna Upadesh. So we are doing that. So we are not pure devotees. We are not qualified to preach. So we are preaching what Prabhupada has given us. We can't change that. We cannot introduce any other principle other than what Prabhupada has given. And that's an instruction, so we are just following it. So that is the path of purification, Prabhu. So we have to, so Krishna is seeing that. So effort will naturally come. I cannot say, I love Prabhupada. Like Prabhupada himself says, if you love someone and you just think about it, so that is feeling. But when that's called meditation, Prabhupada calls this. He says if you love Krishna and you think of him only, that is meditation. But if you love Krishna and then you preach his message, if you work for Krishna, you follow his instructions, that is real love. So one may love Prabhupada and follow the principles. But if one loves Prabhupada and works for him, that is surrender.
Wow. सुपर है. ये सारे फीचर लोग बोलते भी नहीं आज.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
Prabhuji.
That was really super, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So it's an austerity. It's not good. Like my throat is still paining right now, but we have to do it, because that's an instruction. It has to be followed. So you should do this. You should also do this because we are following Prabhupada. So naturally, when you feel something, you will act also. And that activity will please Krishna more.
True,
Yes,
Prabhuji. Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
Okay, so it's very late in India now. So shall we stop now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank
Srila
you.
Prabhupada.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Jai.
Jai.
Hey,
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Dandavad
Hare
pranam,
Pranam,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavad pranam.
Pranam.